Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how to create a Celtic knot, in particular a Celtic knot ring. Um, there are a couple of different ways you can do this, and you can make this as difficult or as easy as you wish. The first way is usually something like the Celtic knot builder, which is found in the red builder menu. You can, just use your Celtic knot builder, and if we roll that up, you'll see what I'm doing. When you left click, it's going to give a blue, and when you right click, it'll give you a red section. You can click on either of those a few times around, to take it back and to remove that preview. But we can play around with this, and you can get all kinds of interesting patterns from stuff like this. And obviously, when you're finished creating what it is that you're looking for. If, say for example, that's created, you can select the knot size and the in the length and the width that you're after, and play around obviously with the different options you have here in these modules as well. Once you're happy with that, you can simply hit apply, and that will create that Celtic knot for you, which is is good for some things, but not good for everything. And problem with that is that Celtic knots are so varied that it's not funny. So what I've got here is, so for example, a Celtic knot that looks like this. And the Celtic knot builder it's going to get something similar, but it's not going to get exactly this kind of pattern to it. So here we have to do things a little bit more manually. Now what I'm going to do before I start is I'm going to get rid of a few layers. So I'm going to take away my base layers for starters. I'm also going to change the color of this layer to green, and also that layer there, he can go to green too. And then I'm going to turn off my red layer for the moment. Now this stuff here I don't need, so I'm going to delete it. Alright, so once we've got this pattern, I'm going to leave that where it sits. What I want to do is change that to green too. Alright, I'm going to grab in my curve menu a single line and turn my grid snap off. And I'm just closing up these sections because we're going to end up extruding these. So that section there, actually before we do anything else, let's grab a quick curve blend from U to U and there, something like that, and we'll grab all of that stuff and put it all onto blue and then hit join. Alright, so that's one closed curve, which is what we need. We'll turn that one off and turn the green back on. We'll do another quick curve blend from that section there to there, and from that section there to there. And we'll join all of that up and put that onto that layer color. So we've got that. So we've got two separate sections here. One section, this blue section, will go under this section here and come out over the top of these sections, and this green section will go over this blue section here and go under here and here. So we're going to then grab both of these pieces, and in the side viewport, what I want to do before I do anything there, I just want to, well, that's just replicating what we've got because I've got Smart Flow turned on. So back in the side viewport, I'm going to grab these guys here and turn my grid snap on, and I'm going to go to solid and extrude curve straight. Now I'm going to take this up to say about 5 mil. It probably doesn't need to be that, but it's going to be that just for this exercise only. Back into the perspective viewport, and what have we got? We've got two sections here that have been extruded, and I mean, you can't tell that this is a Celtic knot at all. The other thing I'd also like to do is I don't want these top sections flat. I'd like them to have a kind of rounded profile to the top there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that back onto the green layer, and this guy is going onto the blue layer just so we can see what we're doing. Before I do anything else, I want to explode these. So hit explode. I'm going to grab that top layer there and delete it, and I'm going to grab that top layer there and delete that. I'm going to work on one section at a time. So to start with, we're going to start with the blue section. I'm going to then grab a curve, and just an arc will be fine. And in the side viewport, I grab this arc, and it doesn't matter how big it is, something like that will be fine. And that's going to be the top of my knot here. So it's going to be the profile I'm going to use. I'm just going to turn that grid snap off and go back into perspective. Let's just bring this over a little bit. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use a tool in the transform menu called Orient 2 Points. The command line is going to ask us to select our object, which is this one here, and hit enter. The reference point will be 1 and 2. And then the target point, as the command line dictates, is going to be that point there, and that point there, and that point there, and that point there. And to kill the command, just hit enter. Yeah, let's just duplicate these edges before we do anything else. So we'll duplicate this edge here and here, that one there, and hit enter, and just make sure they're joined up. So now we'll go back to sweep 2 and select that curve there and this curve here, and then select our profiles and hit enter and hit OK. Now the other thing that we need to do is we need to create an end for this, and there's a few different ways you could do that. I'm just going to use the patch tool, and to do that, before I do anything else, I need to go to curve and hit duplicate edge. I'm going to duplicate that edge there, and this one here, and hit enter, and then I'm going to join both of those up, and then select my curve that I've joined up, surface and patch, and hit OK. Do the same for the opposite side. And then once all that's done, we can select everything there and join it up. Now this is probably going to be, or probably have naked edges, so before we do anything else we want to check that. So we're going to go to Utilities and Show Edges, and it says no naked edges, so we're all good there. So if we were to put that into the Boolean builder, for example, get the green tick of approval, and everything's all good. So you just want to take that precaution. Let's bring back the green section here and do the same thing. Just need that. Let's change that to green. So we're going to do the same for this curve here, and go to our transform menu and select Orient 2 Points, selecting the object to orient, which is going to be this one here, enter the reference point, which will be from there to there. And for this one, we're going to come across to here, and you probably want to put your near snap on for this one, just so you can snap across to your points. You're probably going to want a few different points here. I'm going to go from that end point to there, coming across to here. And we'll very likely do this sweep in, say, probably 3 sections, I would think. Once you're happy with that, hit enter and enter again, and then it's time to sweep. So we go to surface and sweep 2, select that section there, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4, and hit enter and OK. Same for this next section, so grab that one there and there. I'm going to grab that curve, 2, 3, and 4, and enter, and do the same thing, 1 and 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if you're happy with that, hit enter. Same thing, we've got, we want to create a patch for this one here, so back to curves, duplicate the edge. I'm going to duplicate that edge in there, and that one there, and hit enter. Make sure you join those up, and we'll grab just that that curve and back to surface and patch for that. Same thing for this guy here, and patch for that. You want to grab all of that stuff there and hit join, and just check it in the get this, so there's obviously a naked edge somewhere, so let's check that out. We're going to go to Utilities and Show Edges. Shows what, 2 naked edges there, so we're going to go to Join 2 naked edges in Utilities. That one there, and enter. Same for this one here, 1 and 2. Yep. I don't think there's any more. I think that's pretty much it. So again, we can select that, pop it into there, green tick of approval, everything's Archie. Alright, so let's delete this curve, we don't need that anymore. Bring back our blue section, and this is the section where you definitely want a job bag. So the next part that we're going to do is, we have these sections here which look cool, but they're still not giving us that under overlook, and this is where the fun part begins. We're going to grab this blue section, and we know that it has to go under this section here and rise back up and go above that section and then go back under again. So it's going under, over, under. We're going to grab that, and I'm going to use a tool in the transform menu called Cage Edit. The bounding box option, world, change your X point to say 10 and your Y point to 10. I left Z point to 4. You could probably take that down to less than that if you want to, but I'm going to leave that as is. Hit enter and enter again, and it's going to give you a whole heap of points. In the looking down viewport, what we're going to do is, because we're going under this green section here, we've got to grab, say, these points here. The one thing I must stress you don't want to do, you don't want to grab any of these points here, 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 or here. And the reason for that is these sections here have to join up with these sections here, and so on for these ones here when they repeat across. So you want to leave those alone as best as possible. So you know, you can do this, well, I'm just going to do it individually. Actually, I'm just going to work on that. Now, the other thing I want to do is I don't want to select any of these guys here, so I'm going to hold down Control and deselect those. I only want these sections up the top here. Back to perspective, and we're going to use our gumball and just kind of drag that down like that. You might want to also include these sections here. So I'm okay with where that's sitting at the moment. What did I say I wanted? I wanted those guys there, so probably those 3, I guess. So select those 3, back to perspective, and using my gumball I'm going to drag those down so we have something that looks like that. You can keep playing around with it. This is the fun part, you know, you're playing around with basically these sections here. Now, going back to looking down, we're going to now focus on the section of here which has to go above, and we don't want to, oops, hang on, let's just fix that up. So let's do that again. So we really want to bring those, before we do anything, just deselect these, and I'm going to bring those down. Something like that is good. And then what do we want? We want the next section, we probably want these 4 here, I guess. So in the looking down viewport, we're probably going to want those, and maybe even that there. 3 finger, and we want to deselect these because we don't really want to adjust this bottom section if we can help it. And we're going to bring those up to say something like that. And then do the same thing for this section here, so maybe those guys there, and maybe even those. 3 finger and deselect these. Use our gumball and kind of take that so that it's going under a little bit. Alright. Now the next thing that we need to do obviously is we need to adjust this green section. So I'm going to hit escape once and delete the cage, grab this green section and go to cage edit, bounding box, world, leave the same parameters, and in the looking down viewport I want to grab, say, that section there, and maybe even that section there. Three finger, I'm going to deselect these and I'm going to bring those down so that we've got something that, you know, is now resembling, you know, a knot that you know, really is giving us that impression that it's now going, you know, under and over and under again. And this is the, as I said, this is the fun part, because you can really play around with you know, these points and adjust the piece as you see fit. You know, if you don't want it sitting as lumpy, and you know, you want to have a little bit more of an effect to it, then you can quite easily. I'm going to hit escape to that, get rid of that cage. I'm just going to modify this just so it's not sitting so lumpy up the top there. So again, cage edit, bounding box, world, enter that, and I'm really only going to hit, say, that guy there, there, and maybe those two, and just kind of bring that down so it's not sitting up so proud. Something like that should be fine. And then delete what you don't need. Now we have something like that there. What we can do now is let's bring back our red section, and in the looking down viewport, let's shade that up. Let's put that onto that, for example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select, these guys here, and I'm going to turn my point snap on, turn my near snap off, and I'm going to go to duplicate and select, so that point there to there to there and so on, all the way across until I'm happy with where I'm going, and that's fine. So we end up with something that joins up nicely. Because we didn't touch these sections when we were using our cage edit tool, they will join up fine to these sections here, down the bottom and the top, and you will end up with something that looks like that. Now here's the cool thing, is that we now, after you've job bagged that of course, if we select all of that, we can then just modify the height of that, so we can take that down to whatever height that we're after. Say something like that there, for example. I'm going to put that back onto my plane, and let's bring back our section. And once you go to, if you don't have SmartFlow switched on, you'd switch it on, select this as your base, this obviously is your target, and when we have a look at it, basically that pattern there is replicated all the way around until we get to the bottom here. Something interesting has happened there. Maybe that didn't. Oh, I must have had a duplicate of something there. So we can delete that. And so you've got this section down here. Now you can do a couple of things. You could, you know, if you wanted to, just sweep a section, just a rectangular section in here. Maybe that's going to be a blank section for you to put a hallmark on, or maybe it's going to be for resizing later on down the track. Or you could, you know, maybe do something like this. So we could select, say, that and this, and just use your gumball to kind of stretch it out in one dimension, and just, you know, drag it across until you're happy with it. You know, it will elongate just that section, but you know, I guess it depends on your customer as to, you know, whether they're okay with that. I don't know many that wouldn't, but you know, you never know. So you can kind of bring that across, so like that. Do the same for the opposite side there. Grab that there. Just use your gumball. Just drag it across. And you're doing a lot of this manually, but you know, just a little bit more. Something like that should be fine. And what you're aiming for is for it to obviously intersect both this section here, that one there, and this one here on the opposite side. So what you end up with is it will smart flow across until you end up with something that looks like that. So these bottom sections will be slightly longer, but not noticeably so. I mean, not terribly so anyway. Alright, I hope that helps.